So to get to this physical and emotional spontaneity in The Deer Hunter, let's talk about the characters a bit. We first see the male characters in the little gang. They get off work and they go to a place to have some beer after work. And we get quite a bit about each of them. We see, for instance, the other guys challenge De Niro, who's driving the car, to wedge the car between this drunk truck driver and the wall on the road, and it's kind of a daredevil thing to do because the truck driver is weaving around, and there's not much space at all. And he goes, "Yeah, all right," and he does it. I mean, he's scraping the side of the truck and the wall and everything, but he does it. And the others look at him like he's some kind of god. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. They all just risked their lives with that. But they knew De Niro's character. And, he's extraordinarily competent. He's good at pretty much everything, not just physically, but mentally too. He's very smart. He figures things out. And he's also a bit of a daredevil. He can handle stressful situations very well. He thinks well under pressure. We get that. So in a way, he's kind of the leader. Although the other guys will insult him or make fun of him just like each other. They're like that. At the same time, De Niro's character is a little strange. First of all, he's just a tiny bit poetic, not in a la-di-da way, but he'll say things that seem to be non sequiturs, that don't seem to make sense, and the others will tell him, "You're not making any sense. What are you saying?" He holds up a bullet at one point, and he's arguing with John Cazale's character, and he says, "What you don't seem to understand is this, meaning the bullet." And it's all because Cazale is not prepared for the deer hunting trip. He didn't bring his boots. He didn't bring his rifle. He has this little gun. That's all. And he always, De Niro alludes to the fact that Cazale's character never seems to be prepared. And in Cazale's character, it's quite interesting that he tries to overcompensate by walking around like he's some kind of tough guy, which obviously he isn't, and threatening people all the time. And then he calls De Niro a homo because De Niro is not very good with women. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what to do. He kind of does strange things when he tries to come on to women. Cazale says, "I set you up with that redhead in the bar, and you just completely blew it. It would have been easy." So there's this thing that, yes, De Niro's character Mikey is very competent. He's very physical and very smart, but what is it that he's so shy and not very effective with women? And that he does say these strange things from time to time. At the same time, as the audience, we kind of get what he's saying. He's saying something in a very simple way sometimes that's actually pretty profound, that the other guys don't quite get because they're so in the middle of their personal anxieties or desires or whatever that they don't see the reality. De Niro sees it, he just expresses it in ways that the others don't quite understand. And we see all this in the first part of the film, the first encounters of the film. Walken, meanwhile, seems to float on air, and he's the joker of the group, and he's funny, and he's extraordinarily spontaneous, and he likes to get drunk. Well, they all do, but he has a good time. And physically, he's quite beautiful, almost like an angel. And yet he's got that small town Pennsylvania slightly fucked up accent. It's not, he's not, the way he talks is not pretty at all. But he does seem to have this character that he floats through life.
Think we'll ever come back?
From that?
Yeah.
You know something? The whole thing. It's right here. I love this fucking place. I know that sounds crazy.
Because life hasn't presented that much of a challenge to him, in a way. And he's the one who's lovers with Meryl Streep, which we'll get to in a few minutes. Then there's Savage, John Savage, who's kind of the all-American boy. He's more sort of classically good-looking in an American way than the others. He's not impressive. He even seems slightly, just a little bit slow or dumb. Not dumb, but not the brightest light in the room. Kind of a aw shucks regular American boy. And he's also the first one of them to get married. It's like he thinks his life is set, that he's programmed it out and he's going to live it that way and everything's going to be fine. He's a nice guy. The others make fun of him a little from time to time, but, it's all in good fun. But you get that, he seems to be kind of secure in a way, but it is kind of an all-American boy insecurity underneath it, which plays out in Vietnam a lot, because it does turn out he's the weakest of them. And at the same time, you feel for him because he's not arrogant. He is the all-American boy, but he's not arrogant about it at all. And he seems to really love his friends. And then you have John Cazale. It's interesting about John Cazale, he's also in The Godfather. And all those actors, all those great actors from that era thought that John Cazale was the best actor among them. And when you see him in The Godfather as Fredo, and you see him in this film, and you see him in Dog Day Afternoon, for instance, he's quite different from role to role. He can't quite escape his physicality because he's not impressive physically in any way, and that's why he gets the roles he gets, but he does get them and he plays them beautifully. And in this film, they haven't kicked him out of the group, which is interesting, but he's generally pretty negative. He gets angry very easily. He threatens people. He wants to get in fights, even though he's going to lose the fight. He waves his little gun around all the time. And seems to be a drag on the group almost on every time they meet at some point. And yet, in a way, they love him too. He's part of the group. You don't quite understand why. And it has to probably do with the history of them all growing up together. But he's, of the younger ones, he's the one who does not go to Vietnam. And that says a lot. That says that he's, not capable, of being a soldier, or he's not confident enough in his physical abilities to be a soldier, or he's just scared, or what. It's not discussed hardly at all, but it is there. And then you see these dynamics play out in the bar with these characters plus their two older friends, and who are obviously too old to go to Vietnam, but they have a lot of influence on the group. One of them, played by George Jinja, is kind of a leader in the town, and yet he loves to drink. He smiles a lot. He has a great time, and yet he's also got a bit of power. And the others, is he big brother? A little bit. They look up to him, but not, they don't necessarily behave any better because of his presence, because he's not so well behaved himself. And the other one, played by Chuck Aspergren, has a pretty solid center. He also likes to get drunk, but he also likes to use a deep voice and be a little bit profound. And there too, they look up to him a bit. And at the same time, he doesn't intimidate them, but he is older and he does have a presence to him. So they're actually these two older guys, they're not the stars of the film or anything, but they're very important to the group dynamics. And you can see the love that all of them have for each other, and the little problems too that they have with each other. And then we get to the scenes particularly with Meryl Streep at the wedding and beyond, where it becomes quite clear that De Niro's, that even though she's lovers with Christopher Walken, that De Niro's character, Mikey, is quite in love with her. And when he's drunk enough at the wedding, he does some quite strange things. He tries to kiss her and then kind of stops. He nuzzles her a little bit. He gets a little over intimate with her. And she laughs and rolls her eyes. And maybe she's a little in love with him, or she's maybe likes the idea that he's in love with her, even though she's firmly with Christopher Walken. You can't quite tell, but there's something clear that she knows it. And De Niro and Walken are very close. He loves Walken. De Niro loves Walken as his best friend. And yet, when he gets drunk, he can't help but come on a little bit to Meryl Streep's character. And it may be that he doesn't intend anything really beyond being platonic with Meryl Streep, except when he gets too drunk. But even then, he stops himself. And that there's something in his love for both of them that can be uncomfortable at times, but still lives. It doesn't mean he loves Walken any less or feels so much in competition with him. And it's quite an interesting thing, really. There's a lot of depth in that. And from Walken's, when you see Walken observing them, Streep and De Niro, you also get the idea that he knows his best friend is in love with his girlfriend. But he also probably thinks that he's never going to do anything about it. And that is he comfortable with it? Most of the time, probably not all the time, but he loves both of them anyway. And it may even be, in a sense, a compliment that he's the one who got the girl. But all of these possibilities are there, and Walken plays that beautifully, because we don't actually know, but we know it's in there. It's in the mix. It's in the soup. And that's part of what makes for great acting, is that because in us, all the possibilities live. If your best friend you think is attracted to your girlfriend or your boyfriend, there may be lots of different feelings going on. Lots of them. 8 different kinds of feelings. And you yourself are not quite sure in the end how you feel. But you do maybe feel enough love for both of the others that you let it be. And that's a very good observation of humanity. We're all like that, really. Well, some of us kill in those circumstances, but most of us are like that. It's interesting, too, that everyone that Meryl Streep encounters, even minor characters at the wedding, she's wonderfully spontaneous with. And her body language and her way of being is, she has a kind of lightness to her, but also a sort of almost a higher class in a way than the other girls, the other young women. No, she speaks the same way they do. She's just as silly as they are at times, but there's something about her that has more weight, more nobility, more, not necessarily more intelligence, but more awareness in a way of other people. She's deeper than it seems than the other women. Not that there's anything wrong with the other women. They're perfectly nice, intelligent women, most of them. But they don't quite have that depth. At the same time, she's quite spontaneous with everybody. And she's having a great time. And it's wonderful to watch her in this way, to be so free. And all of the principal actors in this film have that freedom and that spontaneity and that physical relationship to each other and to the world around them. And even having to learn this slightly different American culture of the Russian immigrants, which is, they're very American, but again, there is a different feeling, particularly physically, with each other. It's interesting because my family's Russian originally. All four of my grandparents are Russian or Ukrainian. And there is something, when I was a little boy and I'd see the people from the old country, the grandparents and granduncles and aunts, they were so physical. They would not just hug each other, but hang on each other. And when they wanted to play with us little kids, they would slap us in the head because that was affectionate, even though we hated it. But, you know, they were always like touching us and hitting us and kissing us and wet kisses and all of this. You know, for a little American boy, we were always myself and the other kids were like, yuck, yuck, yuck. But it was, you know, remembering all that, it was like, that was the culture. They really were much more physical than most Americans. Those Americans that go back generations in this country. And so you see that sort of Russian physicality in the characters. And yet they're still very American, small town America.